Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88, and today for my next superhero reviews, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 3. So this is the third Turtle movie installment, and unlikely, once again, my most favorite, which is our Turtles 1 and 2, and along with the 2014 of Ninja Turtles, the reboot. Turtles 3 is actually my least favorite, and there are few, or probably most, negative feedbacks about this movie, and practically that it didn't really have familiar villains from the cartoon series that I used to watch back then when I was a kid. And besides, they didn't have the Rat King or Krang, Bebop, and Rocksteady. They had none of them, and mostly they just only had was only just a villain, only a movie villain, and taking them back in time, really not necessary. But if they wanted to bring them back, they would have had meeting up with Oroku Saki before he became the Shredder, and meeting Master Splinter when he was a rat, and meeting his master Amato Yoshi. That could have been a great epic movie, just to see the Turtles facing Oroku Saki and teaming up with Amato Yoshi. That could have been a great movie just to see it. But however, they didn't. They just follow on to not in the right directions. And I'm also concerned about is one of Jim Henson's creatures did not really return. These were new people for creature effects to make the Turtles much more realistic, but they weren't really realistic at all. They were completely not well done, and even however, you could definitely tell that the arms are very rubbery, not too realistic, and they made the green too lightly. They didn't add more details, not too much light, or they didn't add lightness or dark on their costumes. They were certainly not unwell done, not totally unfinished. And for some reason, the only thing that was really effective that I liked were their face expressions of how they smile, or how they get angry, or how they get afraid, or their emotions showing them how their turtles were. I think the most best effectiveness was Donatello and Raphael. And Michelangelo, there was a little bit of where he smiled and laughed, but not even with their mouth moving, not too much. And the one I didn't really like at all, and I was really bothered, was Leonor's face, because he didn't look like from the first two movies. If you look back and you see from the first two movies, he did look the same for 1 and 2. For 3, he looks totally different, and I didn't like this new design that what they did to Leonor. He kind of resembles to Kermit the Frog. I hate to say it, but he does look like Kermit the Frog, just a little. If you take off the bandana and you compare these two, he definitely looks like Kermit. And that goes same with the rest of the 3, but luckily the three they did look realistic, but I didn't like the designs. And the voice actors, they did return, and I was surprised that just now that I realized that Brian Tatachi, that was from the first Revenge of the Nerds movie, he did the voice of Leonardo for 3 Turtle movies. I was surprised. And Corey Feldman returned to play as does the voice of Donatello. He reapprised to do the voice from the first film. He did not return for the second film, but now he returns for the third film as well. And I was surprised that for Raphael, there was 3 actors that did the voices. I forgot the names, but for the first 2, he does look a little resembles. If you watch the clips, you can hear some of the voices, and you might know who the voice actors are. You should check it out.
A Jose Canseco bat? Tell me, you didn't pay money for this.
Kick their butts. They're all in jail. Besides, we took out the Shredder. So what's everybody so worried about anyway?
Clean, clear, beautiful water. Nature. I love it.
Director Stuart Gillard, who's the new director for this third Turtle installment. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad director. I'm not saying he's the worst, and I don't know. He was taking. I don't know what direction he was trying to take for this third turtle movie. I was saying that he couldn't have like done a little more. He could have done better to make the turtles like much more of actions and villains. It was enjoying, but when I was a kid, I thought it was great to see another third turtle movie going back in time in ancient Japan. As I got older and as I see it, difference between of Turtles 1, 2, and 3, I gone back from, hey, Turtles 3 was my most favorite to, on second thought, the first one is my favorite because it's darker, had more action, and it was very violent, but I guess when the parents got really concerned about it, and the second film was very light and comedian and resembled to the cartoon series. But in the third film, there's nothing to be related to it. It was only just Turtles 3 itself. There was nothing to like relate to the comics or nothing to relate to the cartoon series. It was only about the Turtles like going back in time and saving April O'Neil and probably changing the past. So there was nothing really related to it. But I said once again that it's my least favorite, but only just for action, just for enjoying it. But only see it's not really it's really, how should I say this, complex. This third film is really sort of complex to the other two films. But the cast returns such as Alias Caudes, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he played as Casey Jones for the first film, but now he returned for his third film. And Paige Turturro, that played April O'Neil, returned from the second film, The Secret of the Ooze. So we got two cast members returning. So at least there was a little reunion, that's what I should say. Sort of a reunion. So the movie starts out in ancient Japan back in 1603, where we see Kenji like running away or like getting away from the four honor guards. He gets captured, and yet we see is Misu, which is played by Vivian Wu. She just sees them and she doesn't even do nothing, just like keeps an eye on him. And then we jump to another scene back into the present time where we see the Turtles like training, just doing some training, flips around, learn the weapons and all the dance moves. I don't know what they were doing, because once again, back to the first two films, they're all we see in the beginning is we see the first Turtle movies. They're in action, they're fighting off the thieves or fighting off the Foots. That's what we see, is much more action to it to bring out the music, and it pumps it up. But in the third film, it's just only just them just fooling around, messing around with the weapons or training and dance moves. I don't know what they were doing, so that's what they were always doing. And that's the only thing. That's the main problem with it. But only see just to at least entertain us, see the Turtles doing what they're doing, and the music was played by ZZ Top. At least there was something that's pumping up with the music. It was rock and rolls and having some fun. And we see Raphael getting all mad or just being himself, not for no other reason. And April comes down just to meet them, gives them some surprise and presents. When I said about Splinter, oh, I forgot to mention about Splinter, that his puppet was really not too realistic. It wasn't realistic at all. It was much more of a puppet because we barely see him moving or walking around. We just see him standing one place and after another. So that was another problem for Splinter as well. See, the scepter somehow like activates, but back into the past time where we see Ken gets all angry and upset because of his father. He like finds the scepter and activates it, and somehow it travels like from April going back to the past and then Kenjin going to the present time. And what confuses me, another thing, is the clothing wear. Like, I didn't understand what was the point of like changing clothes. Like, Ken is wearing April's clothes, and April is wearing Ken's clothes in the past. That didn't really make any sense at all. Like, I don't understand. Why did they do that? Like, was it like, hey, they can't wear the clothes, so they just switch bodies? Switch only their bodies? Because at that point, they wouldn't have been in their birthday suits or something. And how did they even know that the clothes wouldn't even fit them? Because how can they use the clothes? How can they travel in time? It doesn't really make any sense. I didn't understand. That goes same for the turtles. How do they travel back in time? And with the honor guards, they were in their clothing, and Michelangelo was wearing his dungarees, his bathing suits, and how did that fit that guy? How do we even know if he was totally naked or wearing an undie? That was wrong with this third film. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. That's the problem. So anyways, April was being taken by to meet up with Ken's father, and somehow she was accused to be a witch. So they took her to the dungeon just to see her suffer and see her punished. And while back in the present time, the turtles figure out how to bring April O'Neil back. So the only way to get her back is they have to go back in the past by using that scepter. So they had the plan. So in order to go back in time in the past, someone has to keep an eye on Ken, and that's where Casey volunteered and helped the turtles out just to keep an eye on him. So I don't get why he was in this film, but technically he was just only there just to be in the movie, and that was it. All he did is just kept an eye on Splinter and Ken just for a while. So while the turtles went back in time, somehow once again their clothes were switched, but turtles didn't wearing clothes, but at least they kept the bands and their weapons. But as for the honor guards, they just came down in their, I don't know what they were wearing, somehow in their battle armor undies or their underwear. But the only thing that was changed clothes to switch was Mikey's pair of undies. I think those were Hawaiian bathing suits, I guess. So meanwhile, they came to the past, but somehow they were in their honor guard suits. But how did they get in their clothes? That's a good question. Because impossible that how can the clothes fit the turtles? Because it would have been either ripped or torn, and their shells were really big. There was no way, so that was impossible. But it's a movie, but still, it doesn't make any sense. Somehow they got split up, and Mikey somehow went to the woods, so he got hit by Misu and been captured, and by Omish he lost the scepter. And meanwhile, it was up to Leo, Donnie, and Raph to rescue April, and they were successful. Now they have another problem. Now they had to find the scepter and Mikey, but one thing for sure, they had to find Mikey first in order to find the scepter. So they searched for him, and there was a couple of good action scenes where the turtle faced off the ninja guards, and even with the village people. That was the epic scene, just to see them kicking ass and fighting off. That was a great scene. And meanwhile, somehow Misu showed up and helped the turtles out to find their brother. And somehow her village was being fired and burning to the ground thanks to walkers and his guns. And Mikey, however, helps out, and the best scenes where those two just help one of the honor guard, which they thought there was one of the honor guards, and when they reveals as Mikey, they all screaming and going crazy. Best scene ever. And the only thing they invented was the wet willy that they did to one of Walker's guns. His name was Nard. That was one of my best scene ever. Actually, just my favorite scene. That was it. There was just some comedic scenes that was very, very comical and very funny, but most of the time, sometimes it was ridiculous. And where we see Mikey helps out a little boy that was stuck and trapped on the house and is set on fire. So Mikey rescues him, and somehow he couldn't breathe. Yoshi could not even breathe, so Leo helped out, and Misu thought he was casting an evil spell, but April stopped her and saying it wasn't an evil spell. Leo was trying to help out, so he saved him, and now the turtles were finally allied with the village people. So practically, this movie is only just to see the turtles going back into the past and help out April O'Neil and facing off Walker and his guns. It's not too much to talk about, but really it's just the turtles. They go back in time in the past and discovering what the scepter is all about. It's going back through time, either in the past or present time or maybe the future. It all depends. Like I said, once again, it's my least favorite movie, and it's not it's better than the first two movie, and it's sort of not too better than the TMNT cartoon movie and the reboot of 2013 Turtle that I saw in theaters. And it's actually just a low installment, like a low budget. It didn't do too good for the movie. But while I saw it was on when I got it on VHS. But I rented it on VHS. But when I was a kid, I enjoyed it. It was fun. But as I grew up and as I got older, and I realized it wasn't too good and it wasn't really my favorite, I just want to say that it's kind of a low comical turtle movie ever just to see it. So just to rate this film, I would have to give it a 69 out of 100. For a movie like this, it's only a least favorite, just to enjoy, just to watch, and maybe just to like as a child from memory life. But it's not really good or better than the first two movies. Only just to see if they could have done better, like add like alternate the storyline, alternate the characters a bit. Seeing like me, like I said, bring Oroku Saki in before he became the Shredder, that would have been good. But it's practically an okay comic turtle movie. Just how they ended like that for this whole Turtle trilogy. And I do own this movie on VHS, Blu-ray, and DVD. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88 signing off. His saying is, peace!